Oh, you've interviewed literally hundreds of people in the past 15 years. Uh, Sadly, many of the masters that you've interviewed are no longer with us. Which interview? I know this is difficult because there's so many, but any artists in particular that you've interviewed stand out?
They all, it's, I can't, because it's too, I look at them as an, like people in an audience and seats. It's like asking me, did you ever play a concert where there was one person in the audience that you really, felt you were playing only to them? And, it's just this sea of faces, sea of talents. And each interview has a different, my interview with Helen Merrill was very deep and emotional. My interview with Jackie Kane, where she talked about the death of her daughter, was, very, very emotional. My interview with Chris Connor, again, my series with Creed, it's extraordinary, that interview series. I mean, there are 19 parts in that series, and we became very close friends. And you know this better than anybody. And part of my drive was to sort of, I knew how much you enjoyed your relationships with the people you were videotaping, which was new at that time in 2007. And I was sort of envious of that. I mean, wow, that you could become close with these people, not just cover them, but they could actually become friends. The people whose albums you put on, the people whose albums you spent money on. My Sonny Rollins interviews, as yours on tape. I mean, you got very close with him. I became friendly with him. And wow, I mean, it becomes this extraordinary dollhouse of the most amazing people on the planet. I mean, everybody worships somebody else. I mean, baseball players never did it for me. I mean, I didn't have a father, I had an artist father. So for him, I wasn't being taken to Yankee Stadium all the time, and going to Yankee Stadium doesn't remind me of my father, because he was never at Yankee Stadium. The people I admire most, the people I think are mind-blowingly extraordinary, the people I worship really, are jazz musicians and rock musicians, and to some extent, and soul musicians, because I don't just write. Jazz is really about 20% of my day. 15%. I really write on rock mostly, and I interview Hollywood actors all day, for my other column, A-list actors. So I'm a celebrity interviewer and rock writer for the Wall Street Journal, and I write on the arts. But JazzWax is kind of like this private time, and to be able to call my heroes, and to be able to talk to my heroes, and to be able to email them, or they're emailing me and telling me what a great post something was. I mean, to hear from Chuck Israels about a post that I wrote, where he is just going on about how extraordinary the post was. I mean, it's like I have to pinch myself sometimes, because I grew up worshiping them. I mean, that's how I felt about them, but I couldn't go to the club to tell them that, or there was no email then, or they wouldn't care, because I was nobody. But to be able to write and to have them, it's almost like the tables have turned, and I'm on the stage performing, and they're waiting for me at the stage door to talk to me. But to have that kind of a relationship, and I don't mean that from an ego standpoint, because I don't have an ego on this stuff. If somebody writes and says, you made a mistake, I correct the mistake. There's no ego on my part whatsoever. But to be able to have a relationship with someone you worship, and to have it be a par relationship, just not so much par. I don't mean that in an artistic sense, but par meaning we're on a friendship basis, and we're talking naturally, and they're expressing their point of view without fear of, that I'm going to take it the wrong way. Just an open relationship with heroes is a breathtaking thing. And for that alone, I'm grateful that I started JazzWax. And Terry knew that. Terry was like my Aladdin's lamp. I got 3 rubs out of Terry, and it makes me almost cry. If I think about Terry not being here,
Yeah.
It chokes me up. I really,
Terry was a remarkable encourager of talent. He did that to me when I first got on the internet with Jazz Central Station. He came to my apartment. He took pictures, and I was in the New York Times. I mean, because of Terry.
yeah, Terry was a very generous soul. Terry could take the most complex subject, whether it's ballet, opera, subjects that if we got that assignment to write, if I got that assignment to write on what he writes, what he wrote about, I'd have to spend 10 times the amount of time researching and getting up to a point where I actually could have an authoritative point of view on it. With Terry, he, and I once asked him this, we're sitting on my couch and we're listening to music, and I said, how do you get up to speed so fast? And he goes, I'm just blessed that I'm an incredibly fast reader. He could pour through books, he could tear through books faster than anybody I know, absorb it, distill it, and really have a very clear sense of what he wants to say. The beauty of Terry, though, is that when he wrote, he was writing for a farmer. He was writing for a truck driver. He was writing for, you did not have to be an opera fan, a Broadway fan, a jazz fan, a ballet fan to read Terry and appreciate what he was saying. He wrote so simply. And as he also said to me, nobody is going to understand this better than you do, Marc, because you're the same way. Easy and simple is hard. It is really easy to be complicated and convoluted and difficult. It is very hard to be simple. And that was really his mantra, which is mine. I'm always writing for the farmer. I am writing for the truck driver. I am writing for the person who has no interest in what I'm writing about. That's my audience. That's who I'm trying to reach. So I'll work really hard to be organized, clear, and to make my points in a way that they'll remember it.